Still on Title One.
Yeah. Well, so the most recent data on that's available to download for the parcel information is 2023, which I didn't realize it's that. We're doing that's I know there's no.
Oh, that's this.
Like the most recent data. Do you know if there's any way
The most recent data for parcel information.
that's available for download for GIS is 2023?
That's the Ulster County Parcel Bureau.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Parcel Bureau.
I asked, well, it's actually not through Ulster County Parcel Bureau, it's through Ulster County GIS. So I did ask,
Question. I have no idea.
yeah, I did ask, Kristen if she could find that.
Okay.
Oh,
You need the assessment home? Maybe. No, that wouldn't have transfers. It
no,
would have to come in ownership, but. County Department of Planning.
okay, so I would have to merge that.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like ugly.
Yeah,
Yeah, the raw data, I think is there, but.
right. So we still have like the parcel numbers, or, you know, the SPLs. And if there's anything that comes up, meetings and still, anyway, so.
City of Kingston. Doing any rail trail stuff in the town of Ulster.
That looks pretty soon, updated every 2 years.
That's what I would like.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we have a quorum. So Jen is here. She was not here. Was excused. Kara. Is here. Me, you see, we have a quorum. Meeting starts at 8:04. Yeah. No guests. No applications. I know of, whichever. So let's look at the minutes. I have a few minor edits.
Oh, okay, sorry, that's great. Oh, no.
So, was Sarah here last month or September? The September minutes had her, it was.
Oh, that might just be carryover.
Carryover. Still in there.
Yeah, that's the easy one.
So then it comes out of number 2 as well.
Yes. And the other one in old business, the verb presented. Kara, he scratched that out.
We're at, yeah, okay, it's a system to that. Okay.
My only other is, I will stand corrected if it is the case, but I, 7D and 9, basically C should be capitalized.
Oh, sorry, but that.
It's okay.
Morning.
Morning. Was here.
It's all done.
It's rather than running this. I've done
This is garbage.
Star Street.
Actually, meetings are it's a process. That's what I said.
Right. So we're about to vote on the minutes, made some edits. Do I have a motion to adopt the amended minutes?
Motion to adopt.
Amendment. I'll second that.
And Jen is so all in favor? Raise your hand. So it's unanimous, no no's, no abstentions, motion passes to adopt the minutes as amended. And this brings us to the really big furniture tax.
Great. So you can see we'll start on the blue side. In October, the total sales in the city were 11,540,021, which with the total number of transfers of 41. 32 of those were exempt, so 9 real estate transfer tax transactions were paid, which ended up at 21.95% of transactions. Our average transaction was $2,430.81. The total amount brought in minus interest was $21,876.39, and the total revenue brought in October was $21,877.32 for a total in the real estate transfer tax fund, the community preservation fund of $263,841.65. And on the back, you can see the trend over the month, over the year. And we'll compare that next year when we see it. I will pass around the actual transactions, just a few things to note. And I didn't make note of this in previous months, but I will think about making note of this in future months. 3 of the transactions, 3 out of 41, were exactly $425,000. No way that's what's fine. $425,000 is the exact amount that you do not have to pay. The highest amount that you do not have to pay the real estate transfer tax. Could be coincidence. It could be intentional. There's also one at $420,000. And by the way, there were no exemptions this month. So everyone who sold or had a transaction over 425 paid. But and it's a piece of information that may or may not correlate, and I'm going to start tracking it. Just as an interesting, like, are real estate prices changing
Because of this.
because of this?
Are realtors advising people or something? Do you think it would be that? Realtors are saying like,
If you want to avoid
Well,
that.
yeah,
But what would be the,
Advantage to the seller.
right. There's,
well, no, what would be the number, like,
426, 425,
Right, but-
001, they would have to pay.
right? But then, what would be the number above that that would bring them back to that? Where if they sold, they would have to, like, it just seems odd, like.
Yeah, I don't know, and I mean, I can look back at previous ones as well. Anything would be speculation. I mean, it would all be speculation, but it just feels to me, in a small community, 40, like, I mean, I can track, what percentage of them, but like 3 of them to be exactly 25. It's just so very coincidental to me.
I think the term for that's jurisdictional avoidance.
So, and I'm not putting a negative or positive spin on it. Unless people are would have paid more. I don't know, but they're keeping it down at 425. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, that's the report for the moment.
Okay, I guess we can move on. Kara, you want to make some edits?
I made some edits to the spreadsheets. I put the offset ID number on there, so that correlates to all of the GIS data, so it's easy to find that again, because that's going to be the number of the GIS. Some in record. I tried looking into what Kevin had suggested in making sure I had the most up-to-date data. That's, they found was that what's available to download is only, 2023 data instead of 2025 data. So, I then contacted the county to see if there was any way to get the more recent GIS data, and I have not heard back yet. So all I did was edit the spreadsheets then, because I didn't have any edits to make the map, other than update the data from that we discussed last time.
So the small sheet is the,
That's, here I am having trouble with the titles again. So the bigger sheet is protected land deserts, the smaller sheet is lands that are vacant, that are adjacent to other lands that are protected. And I'm sorry if the title is not. I even thought I was printing it on this, because the printer was like, no, it's smaller. So I decided that.
So you say the shorter sheet are like vacant, that is two,
But next to protected lands, yeah. So, but you can see how some of it didn't really work quite right, because Kingston Land Trust is on there a bunch already, and I'm like, that's protected land, it should have been already going on. I think they're next to each other. They tag themselves, right?
Yeah.
Right, but it was supposed to be filtered out, so.
I guess that's when you go through and just.
Right. So, you know, they're still drafts, they're still work in progress, they're not ready to, buy anything yet, so. It's just, how we slowly.
Sometimes it's how they spell, the spelling issues.
Yeah, yeah,
I
you
know
can see some of
Kingston
the
Land
spellings
Trust
right
is
there.
spelled differently, something that
Mhm.
Land Trust or something that's spelled out.
But I have-
That could,
But I have the shape file from Kingston Land Trust, and basically
shouldn't.
that should have filtered out anything else, because there was only selecting things that were connected to those. Right, so
You're right.
it should have filtered all of us out, so it's still waiting, but I figured, once we get the updated data, then I can review the map.
Maybe I can send you, maybe already working on it, the layer on the parcel viewer. I have access to that in its GIS
Oh, you
shape file.
Okay,
And
that's what I was trying to get.
I'll send it to you, and I can tell you some of the caveats.
Okay,
It's as accurate as we have, it's still not perfect, and you probably know why, it takes time for something to happen, and they get translated down to,
yeah,
GIS.
I mean, it's also, it's even the ones that get sent out for the public aren't perfect. You see
Yeah,
lines that are not right all the time, so,
I will,
but,
sometimes,
if it's, if it's more up to date than the 2023 data, it'll still be,
it is.
Yeah.
It is, so,
Okay.
I'll get it to you this week.
okay,
Like, I can send it to you periodically, this is we need it,
okay.
this is part of.
Yeah,
the function.
because right now we're just trying to make our plan, right? So
Mhm.
when it comes down to actually focusing on things, then
Okay. Any more on this? I think, we'll hear from Kayla next month
yes,
about
yes,
her thoughts. And what will happen is that these prioritization, procedures will get translated into scoring sheets some way. So we'll help, we're just creating a way to guide our decision making.
yeah. The work that she was doing, I thought was very connected to what we were trying to do with our decision tree. And so that's why I wanted her to, so next month she'll be here.
Okay,
Interesting to see, the difference in CPP scores. So like the protected lands deserts are almost exclusively single digit numbers. Almost exclusively 5 and less.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm still.
except for like the cemetery.
Predominantly.
Yep.
And then the adjacent lands are mostly double digit.
And I think that's one of the things that went into the CPP score was whether or not it was next to protected land.
Right, fear and priority.
Yeah.
So inherently, well, not inherently, but per our plan, these adjacent properties already have a higher value.
Yeah.
Is there a size that's too small? Like the 0.09 acre?
That's pretty big.
Oh, it is, okay.
It's pretty small. No, I don't think so because you could dig on it.
yeah,
You know,
Our
or just a city area, a little tiny community. Pollinator garden or something, you know, just be there. Give someone, if there's nothing in that area, walk to that and say, they think about that little tiny space down on Wilbur and a meal. Right, that the community was started making into a garden.
Oh, the little.
Right, the little nice triangle, that's tiny.
Yeah.
The local residents, go out to put like that for a nice little city, right?
okay, Jen?
Yeah, so I didn't send out something again, so you just edit it in real time. You're able to pull it up. Oh, sure, where am I pulling? And I sent the real estate analysis for like all these. We sent to one of them. So we're just, should I actually? Numbers. Yeah. Or we can just. What was it called? What did you say? There's something from 626, which I might be at 626. I thought you said that you had. We can update it right now. Oh, right now, that was my thought. Okay. Cool, so if you go into the by year tab,
Yeah, 626.
and then under the annual median, we can change those amounts for 2023. Where do you see annual median? It's over in gray. Oh, it's behind. Oh. Okay, what am I changing? So for 2023, should be 376,500. And 2022 is accurate at 350, is that right? Yeah. And then 2021 should be 320. And those are the updated numbers that Julie gives me, and I don't think it will change anything too significantly. So. Questions? That should change the entire spreadsheet, so also the by month tab as well should be changed. You made it protected. Yes, except for that annual median column and the chart on the next. I was gonna do an average. Oh, sorry, I can do that. You can also just unprotect it. Well, it's 602, 217, 44. would have been the average over the last 6 years.
So that's interesting. Because that seems to be way less than we're gonna make this year.
Way less.
Or wait, that's way more, we're making way less, yeah.
Well, we had all those exemptions or, yeah,
That's true at the beginning of.
grand,
Yeah.
third or whatever.
Yeah, I would say January and February seeing, well, I don't know, like, maybe sales in Kingston are ridiculously low in January. Oh, no. If you look at the total transfers in January and February, it was actually very high.
Do you think people
So
are trying to
we
get
missed
the
2 major months.
the tax going into effect?
Trying to get in before? Oh, yeah.
So maybe that's why there's so many sales. In those 2 months.
But
And
there were so many transfers, but they weren't subject to the tax because they were.
right,
Already.
so I'm wondering if there's so many transfers because.
Oh, because, yeah, again, we'll.
If you go to the by month tab, we should be able to see
Huh.
January and February's for the.
Oh, right. You charted? No, yes. This?
Well, no, yeah, what do you want me to look at? We'll do both, any of it.
Well, I operate better in this.
Okay, but. Yeah, so we get those weird spikes because, $10 million properties sell. But generally it seemed pretty even to me when I was looking at it. Maybe a bit more in the summer, but. I'm actually not very many in January, so this might be because the real estate transfer tax is going to that. Can, in theory, change that chart, so the chart's not protected.
But it is interesting, like who was tracking, who's paying attention to this transfer tax?
Hopefully the real estate agents, but
I'm sure they are, yeah.
that might have pushed everyone to.
Uh-huh.
Then
An excuse, it goes to say.
could have been. It would be interesting to talk to some.
Yeah, well, that doesn't really matter, except for like data.
But any more questions? Please, we can go on to the historic preservation. I still got to get into the Zoom.
You need me to invite you or are you? You have a link?
I have.
This meeting is being recorded.
Very good. Very good.
You have to move it.
Good now? Let me get out of this.
If you go down to, click like leave. Do you see where we have to go? Go down to audio, because I'm allowed to bottom. Click it and then click leave computer settings or leave audio settings. Maybe it works right. Oh, you left the room, so you
This meeting is being recorded.
Good.
correct.
Um. decided to go ahead and develop a presentation for historic preservation prioritization. I don't think we'll start a decision tree today. There's some big issues, had to do and address, do as figure out the details. And so I'm going to share my screen.
Can we turn the lights off? Does it distract anyone or where?
All right, so these are my ideas. And I'm gonna hammer home certain points, so it may seem a little redundant, but everything kind of builds on it, each other, and it's gonna be how we interact with the Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission. We have one representative, I guess, in the commission here. And that's important, because the rest of us are really land conservation in some way. We're not historic preservation. I'll get into that, why that's important. And I'm going to present something where we're really limited what we fund for historic preservation. And that's kind of playing it safe. And we don't know how much money we're going to have come next year. We should have more than we have now, but we're going to have to make a decision on what the priority is. It's going to be more land conservation or historic preservation projects, at least for the first year or two. It could change, but let's do some background first. Here are the 5 historic districts, so anything in it is historic property. I know we have 3 districts that are in historic, National Historic Register, so you're talking Stockade, Spring, and Chestnut Street. And we have local historic districts. But as far as we're concerned, given local law 8 and the plan, they're all treated the same. And here, the little orange and black dots are all one of the tax parcels with historic landmarks. The tax parcel with the jetty on the Rondout wasn't in my records. I don't know why a jetty is an historic landmark. Maybe you can walk on it.
Which one?
There's a jetty. It's an historic landmark according to my records, but I couldn't find the tax parcel. It's on the Rondout.
Oh, to the lighthouse?
I guess I don't know. Good question. I didn't map it. Everything else.
Wait, I have a clarifying question. So those dots are also historic landmarks, but they're outside, well, some are, but they're outside the district. So they're just sort of,
Oh,
they're not in.
they're technically the parcels, and you can assume each parcel has something historic.
Okay.
And these are landmarks under what designation?
Multiple. I guess it's local, state, national.
All.
Oh, yeah, I didn't disaggregate. Because they're all treated the same.
What's the source, the data source for it?
It's, the data source is a spreadsheet that's on the website. And I went through the spreadsheet and it marks, which is a historic landmark. And for 70 some odd records, I will seek out the tax parcel, put a dot on it, like that. So, and the boundaries, they have maps on PDF files. They were done by marker. So I digitized it. It's a GIS line.
Where are these housed?
On our website.
On our website?
When you say our, you mean county? You mean city?
City.
Okay. Kevin, does this data feel different to you than we would expect?
I'd have to like do a consistency review on it. Yeah, I had done exactly what you were doing, only more in depth when we were doing the natural resource inventory, and I was not on the landmarks commission at that point.
Yeah, we should.
We were doing that for the CAC.
But this is saying that, Albany Avenue is a town of historic
Yeah, oh, yes, sure.
and also, what would that be for, oh, what is this?
So, yeah. But my house in Quartz Mansion up there, Union Church, the fire station.
Oh, Delaware.
By Ann Waddington,
I see.
Cornell.
Oh, this part,
Julie, will you point, which one's Albany? The,
Albany Avenue, this one.
okay, and then what's the, and then that's Broadway
This is
with the
Broadway.
other dots also? Okay.
Yeah,
If you're getting to this far, are these all scored in,
Well, I'll talk about that. They all receive a score of 4, which it means nothing in a way. Okay, at the very last slide, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So Casey made the point. It's to show basically what we can fund, and geographically, you have little spots that are outside the historic districts. But we're gonna narrow that universe even more when we talk about what we can fund. So this is the background. These are 2, I guess, clauses, subsections from the local law that governs us. And it's called acquisition, management of acquired land. And when I first read that, I was like, we're not buying these, but it means you're getting a right or an interest. So if we give people money to do something, we have a right to hold them to it. And if they violate that, we want our money back. So basically, when we spend money, it's for public use and enjoyment. And that's easy to think about when we talk about land conservation projects. But when we talk about private property, buildings, we really have to be thinking about organizations that are open to the public. So I'm thinking about buildings owned by nonprofits, run by nonprofits, add to our cultural life. Cultural life could be anything from a place where people meet, talk about whatever, to actual art and culture. And this will include religious institutions. But in Massachusetts, they're giving money to religious institutions to like do repairs.
it would include religious institutions if they happen to be.
Open, historic.
Right.
That's right, yeah, narrowing. So, going back to that map, we could have buildings that are open to the public, part of the cultural life, but they're just not historic. We can't fund them. And that bit is right from the community preservation plan at the bottom, preservation of historic places. It's a little different in the local law, but it says pretty much the same thing. That's where the funds for historic preservation should be directed to.
Kevin, do we have, or Bert, do we have historic places in Kingston that are not, that we are somehow designating it or thinking they're historic, but they're not on the register or protected under a local law?
I think what you're maybe referring to are properties that the SHPO would deem eligible for.
Yes.
That doesn't cover it, that language. just
So for
excludes
instance,
it.
give an example of a property that would happen to.
Oh, well, the obvious example is the Nathaniel Booth, which is disrepair, right? I'm involved with that one, but it's not listed. But it would likely be deemed eligible. You just have to get the SHPO over there and look at it.
So how many of those?
There's a
Loopholes
number
are
of those. There's a number of those around.
Number like a dozen, 2 dozen?
Could be. I probably have to go downstairs and go over this with Suzanne and Ethan.
So that
I'm
means.
sure they have an opinion as to what would be eligible. I have a list from the CAC of non-listed properties that we should have included, could be included, not should, could be included or deemed eligible.
But currently, this
Doesn't cover that.
doesn't cover.
Doesn't cover it.
So that is an important understanding for this board.
Can you,
Yeah.
what is SHPO?
SHPO is the State Historic Preservation Organization.
Oh, okay.
So another example, Annie Murphy Neighborhood Center, the building that I work in, is not on the National Historic Register. It's not on any registered thing list. I put solar panels on it. Why would I not be able to? It's not a designated historic building. SHPO, State Historic Preservation Organization, understands now that I put solar on it, and they said, it may not be on one of these lists, but it's eligible based on the year it was built, right? Is that what the eligibility is based on?
Well, it could be a variety of factors, but that's one of them.
One of the factors here is built, I guess there's other factors that are not there. So, moving forward, for my building, if we wanted to use this for that, we could not. Because it is not, according to the law, it is not protected under the New York State Register or under a local municipal law. However, it happens to be historic in the eyes of the state's historic organization, which governs and regulates how we touch our buildings. So my building, because of that loophole, would not be eligible for funding under our CPF, unless we change our local law.
Right.
Just out of curiosity, did it make it then difficult to put the solar panel?
I haven't put solar panels on.
Okay,
They
and
told
then,
me now I can't put any more solar panels on. I'm
because
basically
then,
grandfathered in.
wow, okay.
So I have a question. So is it still eligible regardless of the solar panels?
So the anywhere percenters,
Could you go down the list now?
Could you get that moved on the list?
I don't know.
Yeah, sure it could be, but can't be, they go down the stairs to the planning office.
So
They want to do
basically,
it full day.
any that are potentially eligible but not actually preserved yet would just need to go through that step to get it preserved before they could apply for this funding.
Yeah, I would imagine that's a ridiculously complicated process. Kevin, can you speak to that?
It may not be as complicated as thing. The first place to go is to the SHPO CRIS system and look that up and there's a map.
It's like a.
Cultural resource inventory system, and something to that effect. Yeah.
So I have another question
Yeah.
related to this. When it says open to the public, does that mean it has to be open to the public for free to get into? Or is it like if there's a museum that is charging people to come in,
Where does he open to the public?
Allow
Public
public
use.
use.
allow public use?
Oh,
Public use.
Well, that's something we have to gauge. It's,
Yeah.
free is better, but if you, a nominal fee, like to go into a museum is okay too.
Okay,
But I'm gonna flesh that out. Just, I'll go through the presentation. And we talk about preserving cultural property. It's real property. You know, I mean, the law talks, we're concerned with real property. And again, at the very end, in Massachusetts, they're looking at all types of artifacts. And we're not equipped to do that. So there's.
just ending on that last slide, is if it does exist already, which you're saying that
Yeah.
we already created, or you, like, presumably, already created a list of these loopholes, I'm saying loopholes or whatever, outliers, whatever they are. It would be good for this board to at least have access to that list, so that actually that list could be mapped also, like, hey, by the way, these are other places that we locally acknowledge are historic but are not eligible, or we need to go through another step.
Yes.
So
To
can
be
you
able-
have that list?
I think I have it right here.
oh my God.
Yes.
The black or the red?
A lot of them are not, no, the yellow ones are, the yellow and green are the ones that are eligible. The black are not determined. And the red are, no, not so much.
So the black may be the loophole ones?
Yeah, red, the black would be not eligible, so
Oh,
that would require a determination. The green are the ones you're talking about, eligible but not listed.
But why would somebody, okay, so a couple things to make my record. One, we need that yellow list is the list that we want to be looking at. But why would there be a parcel on that map that's not eligible? Like, why are all the black dots on there?
Well, they've come out for one reason or another. Say on a Beale Street, they came out, Wally Wheeler came down many years ago and did a DOT survey. And he started filling out all the inventory forms and sending to SHPO. So then they had them, and those were determined to be eligible, but they weren't listed. And those are the ones that are underneath the train trestle, and they were slated for demolition, and they were saved because they were listed.
Okay, so eligible, so not eligible according to SHPO's CRIS program. Not eligible means that somebody was like, hey, I think my parcel is eligible and I'm gonna try to get it listed. And then SHPO said, no. Is that?
Right, and the reason they could have been out here or done that, it could be for a variety of reasons. We've had several intensive and reconnaissance level surveys done that would have been a determining factor. Those would have been done by a consultant typically, and then SHPO would review it and come down and look and whatever, for it to make the determination whether it's red, yellow, green, or black. And
But I think anecdotally, this is interesting, at least to me,
Yeah.
because that means that, I mean, just obviously, just glancing across the room at a map that looks like it's covered in black dots, suggests to me that lots of people in the city feel as though their parcel is historic, but it's not. So I think that that's relevant in this process also, if like the social feeling is, of course you need to protect blah, blah, blah house. It's historic. The world knows it's historic. Well, no, it's not. It's not officially. So like that,
That's good to know, because people may start to complain. If they're like, they feel that what they own, their home, building, doesn't qualify.
or if people come to support and say, hey, I know you have historic preservation fund,
Right,
look at my house. Well,
so we could essentially be spending all our money on this.
right.
Yes.
But then if it's their house, it's not available for public use.
So that might be house, but like,
That too.
whatever, personal, whatever it is, like, there's a number of different ramifications here. One is like just understanding the context of in our universe of properties, which ones people think are historic or maybe technically may be, but aren't eligible. Ones that are eligible, but no one's gone through the process to get them like preserved or whatever, protected. And then,
Mhm.
So I
And
wanna-
considering our fund, I'm sorry, is not even $300,000 yet, you know, and what it would cost to actually, right, to put into all these different properties.
yeah,
So let's look at it to what we will fund and how we'll interact. How I think we should interact. We need to talk with the Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission. So there's an established review process, not that it's not just to determine whether something's officially historic, but whether the repairs, the restoration work qualifies under accepted historic preservation standards. And the law talks about accepted historic preservation standards. This city happens to have someone on staff, in addition to a commission, whose job is to help determine that. And then SHPO is going to get involved anyway. So Chris, you would mention that through that system. So, and the person, Nathan, who reviews this stuff is using Department of Interior standards
right.
also. So we're not equipped to do. We don't have to determine if exterior work meets some sort of standard. And you made the point that, if we could be swamped. We're not clear about what we fund.
Mhm.
And so we have to be picky. Actually, the law gives us the ability to do that. We want to avoid the duplication of efforts. Like I mentioned, we don't want to be the ones determining whether certain exterior work qualifies as the right type of work from the historic preservation lens. And we want to prevent property owners from going through a parallel review process. So we wouldn't be reviewing this exterior work. That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be a situation where we review it, we consult the Landmarks Preservation Commission, like they do something in Massachusetts. That's the way they operate. Like I said, we have a very well-defined process. So anything we do should develop around what's currently done.
Mhm.
I'll get back into a little bit. So basically, right off the bat, these diamond points, I'm going to come back to them at the end. It's officially an historic landmarking district. And those are written, enshrined in law. Buildings or properties are open to the public. In the future, we can talk about what that means. So I'm talking about cultural institutions, museums, municipal buildings. The Massachusetts programs funding a lot of they're funding themselves, basically, different branches of municipal government. to do different things. These would be municipal buildings that are historic, open to the public, and public spaces. I'll get into that when we talk about parks and cemeteries. I'll get into that a little later. So, and I think the important thing for, I guess, those of you who work in nonprofits is that we work with organizations where the funded work is verifiable through municipal budgets, so Form 990. Visits should be no problem. Like, they'll probably show a before picture. We can go there. I can go. It's part of my job with the county. And then we can do an after photo, just to protect the county, to show, to demonstrate that the work was done. And I think we'll have an easier time than with certain organizations to do that. And the type of work that I see this board funding and reviewing itself are interior improvements. Because if I'm looking at Massachusetts, people are going to ask, I need a new heating system. I need new flooring. These are things to help maintain the building so there is a public benefit, so the public can continue to go in. Now, any exterior work would go through the HLPC. They have their own process for reviewing whether something gets the green light. And when that happens, it could be a situation, I don't know the details yet, this is for next year. That organization can come back to us to get funding, at least partial funding for the exterior work. And I bring up ADA accessibility. We may find ourselves either together or individually, funding ADA accessibility. St. James United Methodist Church, with their own money, put in an elevator. You're talking organizations that may need to make bathrooms accessible, ADA compliant. And that's the type of work I see us funding, using the Massachusetts experience. So like I said before, exterior projects complete the Landmark Preservation Commission review would be eligible for community preservation funds. We need to establish some sort of coordination with them. That obviously someone, doesn't have to be you, would talk about that. And there would be meetings, not with the whole board. I would be happy to meet with like Nathan or something. And then we could talk before the board about how that would work. But I don't want to get into that. I actually started making slides about how that would work, and we chucked them because it's for next year. We just need to get some basic overarching things out of the way.
Can I ask a question before we move on? Was that all your interpretation of the law, or how are you knowing that we are able to buy a heat pump for a historic building?
It's my interpretations from looking at Massachusetts. And the law doesn't go into specifics, it just says to maintain historic preservation. So,
I mean, the thing is, we're operating under a different law. We're operating under the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act. So I wonder if, I feel like we need an interpretation of our specific
it's a
law
good next step.
to just understand, like, if this is your interpretation of the Massachusetts law, does the same apply to our law?
No, that's a good point. That's a good next step to make sure that what's being proposed here we can do. I wasn't entirely sure. I'm just looking about the local law is just as the fund historic preservation projects.
Right.
Doesn't go into a whole lot of detail.
Right. Actually, Shaniko, you were at the CPP thing the other day, right? Were you there for both days?
Half the day,
Half the days. Did they talk about historic preservation at all?
not in depth.
So I feel like, and this, I feel like is gonna be a recurring theme, is that,
Then it then raises the question of what can we fund.
Well, if you,
yeah,
I don't, one of the things I'm questioning as you're talking about this is like, is there a scoring system that Massachusetts uses, the way we're scoring these parcels and looking at, because I wouldn't want the historic, I wouldn't want to lose that option, but I also wouldn't want it to compete with what we're doing regarding, natural resources, because these natural resources, like Habitat is not going to wait for us to fix a building before it decides to die,
So I understand, yes. These are the things I wanted to get out and talk about now. Massachusetts is different, like, I don't see the scoring system, I mean, it varies from town to town. But they fund the full breadth. Okay, one of the last slides, I mean, there are like Calvin Coolidge's desk. It's getting in Northampton, state of Maine. Preserved. They have a wide berth. There's other stuff too. So
I think
when I say interior work, we'll verify this with this, we'll look at the law. Then we can come back to this.
And I think that we should be deciding collectively when we are doing law interpretation, who's that going to happen through, right? So like, I think it's gonna happen a lot. Like, we need so-and-so to interpret this part of the law. I actually currently have corporation counsel reviewing something that we'll talk about in a moment, but like, is that the default that when we have a question like this, are we asking our city's corporation counsel, our attorney to review it? Or,
Well, I thought about it. I thought about it like, we come up with something. And then we send it to the corporation council instead of like piecemeal. Questions, but I feel, I haven't seen anything to preclude. From what I've seen, I'm not saying I've looked at everything, us funding interior work. The local law allows that. There may be something else that precludes. And that helps narrow, if we're just doing it for historic properties, that really narrows what we can look at. That we can help justify when not to fund. Because we're working cultural property, public access. So exterior work, this is where I had the most questions, that we're always going to defer to the expertise of the Landmarks Commission and city staff. They're already there. And like you said, I don't know, it does make it weird. Basically, we can, in theory, improve interior work faster than exterior work for funding. This is something we have to think about further. We have to do more research, as I'm saying. But even then, you get approved for exterior work only, public access still necessary. It's the same set of buildings we're dealing with for interior work. Cultural institutions, museums, municipal buildings, public spaces. We can talk about this into next year. Like we just hash up the next questions we want to answer. One of them is whether we can fund interior, exactly what we can fund. We're not entirely sure. So,
There's not a whole lot of interior landmarks.
no,
We're
we're
only pressed to name one. Maybe this building, I'm not even sure.
but like
Check that.
and what I've seen from Massachusetts is that they're funding like repair work. With like spaces, like I said, flooring, lighting, stuff like that will come before us. But I don't know if we're comfortable with that.
Well, we don't do that at HLPC. We're
No, I know that.
on the exterior.
Those applications would come to us.
Yeah.
I have a question that might be back to the first meeting that I don't remember if it got answered, but, or if we discussed it, but like, the amount of money that we have available, have we broken that into percentages as to, we'll give this much each year, or we'll give a percentage of what we have to historic preservation, we'll give a percentage of what we have to, like, it's grants type of thing.
Greenfield, I don't know if this is applicable to all Massachusetts. We'll say at least 10% for either.
Okay,
for what?
At least 10% for each of its categories. They have 4 categories.
Oh.
okay.
So it'd be something like that.
Because it seems like each year we would determine, like, based on last year, we're gonna have this much available for historic properties, we're gonna have this much available to fund natural resource projects and whatever our categories end up being, but like, okay, so we haven't
That hasn't been
determined,
prescribed.
that hasn't been prescribed, okay.
And we are able to prescribe that. That is.
This board can advise whatever this board wants to do. Right now, all of this money is in one place.
You're right.
The fact that it's in 2 columns on Julie's sheet is only on Julie's sheet. This is not being kept in 2 separate places. This is by tracking purposes only. And any other designation in terms of how the board wants to recommend funding would be a priority or established,
I feel like
prescription
we
is
should
for-
have,
but it doesn't have to be that way. The common council will ultimately say whatever.
right,
Yeah, you're
I
net.
feel like we should have a certain percentage of what we have available is what we're going to be our goal to, so if somebody comes in with a project that's, you know, would basically take all of the funding from all of the things, we can be like, well, we can't
Yeah.
fund that.
Yeah,
You know,
up to a certain amount,
We could only, right, we could only fund up to $2,000 of that.
like per
because-
project even.
Right,
But that's that kind of, that's in a slide that I didn't include about, and I've seen this with historic preservation grants, it's only up to a certain amount.
yeah.
You're not.
I feel like we should probably determine that each year, like what it's gonna be based on previous years.
It's- Yeah, oh, that's a great idea.
Also regarding your question about the other, you know, places that were at the training, so there was a CPF training at Scenic Hudson. And other folks who are looking at CPFs, other municipalities that want CPFs were there. You know, so Rochester and all these other folks who have recently passed and are working to pass one. So a lot of those places are even more rural than us,
Right.
you know, and so you know, some of them were talking about farmland, and it really comes down to the characteristics of your city. Like what's the characteristics of your place, and what is it that people are, you know, find important to protect or something like that. So in terms of, you
Yeah,
know,
and
what
I,
people are prioritizing.
and I think that whatever we choose to do with historic is actually gonna probably start to set precedent for other communities. Cause
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's not a lot of other communities, at least in
It's just the
valley.
cities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the cities, that's in all.
What I noticed about certain, like Gloucester, is that most of the funding is like historic preservation. It's like they've done a lot of land preservation at this point, and they're just looking to
Yeah.
maintain what they have.
I should rephrase, I'm just comparing us to the ones in the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act, like of those that already have it, I think we will be sort of paving the way for historic.
How many other cities in New York State have this?
Zero.
Zero. We're the only city.
That's what I understand.
That's what I thought too, but.
So it's hard to make the comparison.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's also hard to understand what we are allowed to do or not. And this actually came up, again, a question I was asking Corporation Counsel about precedent, and it's maybe just a legal thing that I don't understand because I don't have legalese, but I have always thrown out the argument, oh, you're doing it, so there's precedent. I was told by Corporation Counsel that is not what precedent is. Precedent is you're doing it and somebody challenged it and you won the challenge. So now there's legal precedence.
Court
But if nobody
has declared
Yes.
precedent.
I've always, and maybe this is just the difference between like, maybe the word is used either way, but I've always thought, well, if they're doing it, means I get to do it. But that's not necessarily the case. And the reason this came up is because I've talked about in a moment about paying back a bond. And Marbletown is doing that. And I went to my corporation counsel and said, Marbletown is doing what we want to do. And I said, that's precedent. She said, that is not what precedent is, Julie. And I said, okay. So.
The legal questions that were not lost on me. I don't know everything to look at. For the next meeting, I'll look at the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act, and I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I can ask corp counsel also.
And that could be one of the things we discussed. Listen, the legal questions get even more gnarly. We talk about religious institutions, and this is why I can emphasize very practical projects like flooring and lighting, because you talk about religious iconography. I mean, that's just First Amendment in Boston comes straight out on the website. We will not fund it. And so there are legal, so the things we have to maneuver through over the next few months. But I think, I'm hoping with saying that we can start to think of it in certain terms that we deal with, repairs on the interior of a building. We're not concerned about whether it's historic or not, it's to keep it usable for the public, and we know that the public goes there. And that's my pitch. Exterior work is, we go through an existing commission, an existing process, it comes back to us, as clumsy as that is, you can maybe work that out, and you get like a certain amount towards the work you've done or something. It can be for interior work too, we're all gonna fund up to a certain amount.
Kevin, is this then consistent with the process of how you think it would work with HLPC?
Well, the thing that's happening with HLPC at the moment is that Ethan has applied for a historic preservation grant for a preservation plan to run concurrently with the LWRP update and the comprehensive plan update. And this board, I think, should coordinate its efforts with that process. The LWRP also has a historic aspect to it. That has a section.
Does everyone know what LWRP is?
That's the local waterfront revitalization plan.
So right now, the city we got funding to update this local waterfront revitalization plan. We have one from decades ago. Our comprehensive plan is also out of date now. It's 2025 plan. It's now 2025. So those are both happening concurrently at the same time. Now this is to bring in a historic plan to have economies of scale, I presume,
Yeah.
in the process.
But that actually kind of gives us cover for exterior work. We can postpone funding any type of exterior work until we're up to speed on these other planning efforts.
Be a recommendation.
And then maybe, but would it be good to continue to look if we can do interior funding? At least initially,
See what that means.
see what that means.
Yeah, I think in the interior question, I think the interpretation, I don't know. It'll have to, I think it's gonna actually depend on what the actual ask is. So if the interior work doesn't directly impact the user experience, I don't know what that would be. So if it's like mechanical.
But
Yeah. So all this is up for interpretation.
And yeah, we're a deliberative body. We're deliberating about what that is.
Yeah.
So with public spaces, I kind of explained it before, but I saw in Massachusetts is that like, tombstone cleaning, statues, repairing statues. I think that's stuff that's we could fund right off the bat. It's something that,
Would be like maintenance and stewardship.
yeah, I think that's,
So it would come out of that what's ever allocated to its maintenance, which is at 10%.
Yeah.
yeah, well, we could figure that out. I mean, I think there's certainly projects, unless of course what they're proposing, they have to submit a site plan to the city. And then trigger some sort of review with the Landmarks Preservation Commission, then we'll step back.
The cemetery is subject to HLPC approval, Kevin?
I don't know that we've ever had one. Ours.
Are cemeteries considered public spaces?
They would be considered
they
public
are.
spaces.
Probably, yeah.
We all want to do. Well, and I may walk in one 3 miles a day, but does that mean it's still, like, what gives a private cemetery? Right? Yeah, but land trust land is private too.
Yeah.
Should make it available to the public.
Right.
If you accept public land, but does that make
I
it
mean,
public
the
land?
sign,
Space is publicly available land. Right. Same thing with cemetery. Right.
the sign on the cemetery says, that it's open dawn to dusk or whatever.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
But that doesn't make it public land, it's publicly accessible land.
publicly accessible land, which is what a lot, like the land that we're gonna preserve is mostly gonna be publicly accessible land.
Right.
It's gonna be, Kingston Land Trust property or run down to Sovis or somebody.
Right, so like city land is public land. Your lands are publicly accessible.
Right, it's private land, it's publicly accessible. That's why we're allowed to make our own rules about, dogs and bikes
Right.
on a property that doesn't have to be the same as city
Right.
laws.
So then you're back in the beginning of your deck, the one that said available for public use or whatever.
Yep.
Doesn't have to mean public land, it just needs to be publicly accessible.
Yes.
Right.
Accessibility, that's the overriding factor.
Which is why I asked the question about whether or not it was available, if it's available free or not, does that make a difference?
But so you have never had a cemetery come before your board, but in theory it would.
Not in
Because then,
my experience.
there's also the big push for finding green burial sites now.
Right.
And that could be, somebody could approach us with a plot of land that would be available for green burial that they would like to purchase and turn into a green burial site, which would then be open to the public,
That's interesting.
right?
That's it. So in Greenfield, there's a matrix to explain things. People are reading how they go about their business. I got rid of the recreation and the housing because that's not part of these funds for the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act, but
Recreation is. Housing is not.
housing is not. Well, recreation comes under open space
Okay.
in our case, because we have a separate recreation fund we were talked about. So, but I'm just using this just to talk about how these things operate. So acquire is purely buy. So in theory, we could buy a historic building, we being the city. I don't know why we would do that. You really can't create a historic space. Time does that. Preserve is something particular. Support, you're responsible for keeping on the lights and payroll, not us. Rehabilitate, I think, is something that we would do. So like I talked about earlier, we can consider artifacts that are part of a public space, like tombstones, statues, the way I read historic preservation. And as far as open space, land preservation is concerned, that we may have a restoration ecology project that comes before us. So
But wouldn't the 10% management and stewardship be able to provide support? So if the Volunteer Firemen's Museum, which is historic, is like, they really need to pay somebody to be here 4 hours a week.
no.
Fine, it's management and stewardship.
So how long do you want to do that?
I'm just saying, why would it be eligible?
Because it says in the law, we're dealing with real property. We're focused on real property in local law 8. That's why I'm talking about.
But management and stewardship inherently means people mowing lawns. Doesn't
Well, so what we're asking is, can this money go towards salary?
it? Yeah,
No, I don't see it. You gotta point that out to me.
somebody,
There's,
there's precedent. At the workshop, somebody was saying
I
that
thought
they were
making
paying
it-
for someone to be the lawn mower.
yeah, I thought management and stewardship meant going out and mowing the property. But I thought it had to do with, if we preserve an open space, we preserve a park,
Yeah,
then we've got to pay someone to steward that park and manage that park.
Right, but parks are just as eligible as historic.
So
to manage
a
historic property.
percentage of that management and stewardship would go towards mowing those lawns.
there's one thing to do it if it's a one-off project, like it's been overgrown and you're paying someone to do the work.
I'll get, so you're,
Yeah, but there's another thing where I haven't seen anything that we'd be using this funding to
and if we get
consistently pay salaries.
and if we get a conservation easement on a property that then goes to like Kingston Land Trust to manage that conservation easement, then there would be a stewardship, there would be an amount of that stewardship and management money that would go into their stewardship defense fund so that they could annually go out and monitor it.
So why couldn't
But
we,
that would be a one-time payment, like to their stewardship defense fund.
but why are we writing off personnel as an option? I mean, if we say that if we buy, buy something with Kingston Land Trust funding and we want to pay for someone to be monitoring it. To me, that's
But we can't,
stewardship, management and stewardship.
we can't use it for anything that's already purchased. We already
So,
have- So a new property that we bought with this money.
right. So let's say we buy the Newcomb property and we want them to farm.
What's the interest of the right into the real property if you're, they,
It's not, that would be the 90%. The 10% would
The
be
10%
management and
is
stewardship.
management and stewardship.
where
What?
is this shown?
What time period, like, there wouldn't be enough money for them to pay someone
No, but it could be the first year.
forever. But how does that get determined? Like, it's just but set amount of money and then they divvy that out, they
That's one
pay
of the
a
things
person
we have to
once a
figure
year or every month.
Right. The 10% is prescribed in the law. Per the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act, up to 10% can be set aside for stewardship, management stewardship. Does not prescribe in the law whether it's 10% of each transaction, 10% of your entire fund, 10% per year. I don't think, right? That's how your understanding based on the meeting at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded to me almost like what we were just talking about with these landmarks, like how do we cap it? How do we determine a certain amount for each?
You know, the laws,
So in a sense, maybe we need to give little grants for that too, for stewardship. A little bit thinking about this.
What I'm saying is like, this is another thing that I think we need interpretation for is, and particularly, or in this case, for this discussion, in the case of historic work, can we be paying Dorset for a year? That's management and stewardship. They're stewarding the historic property, which is open to the public. That docent can pay 10% of whatever we give.
Well, I guess I'm paying to monitor an easement, I can see. But where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I think that's.
It's,
That is the question.
yeah.
It's the same question with, if we purchase a recreation, if we purchase a park, do we pay someone to be monitoring that park? Seasonal employee, management and stewardship. They're managing the park that we just bought.
And is there any accountability? Like if we give somebody money for management and stewardship, how do we know that they're doing it? Or using money?
It's just, it's on a road that's just not sustainable.
Here we go.
Right.
Not more than 10% of the fund shall be utilized for the management and stewardship program provided for in subsection A4 of this section. Subsection A4. Subsection A. Subsection A4.
Okay, we want to have about 20 minutes left. I want to get through. This is the last slide. Basically, you talk about prioritization. You know, if we're going to fund something, it's officially historic. So people come around and think it says their home has a history. No, it doesn't claim. It's officially on a national, state, local register. Building open to the public, flesh that out. We have a good sense of what that means. Buildings or space open to the public. We're dealing with cultural institutions, nonprofits, government entities. I think for next week, there's a possible path for funding interior improvements once this application goes live. I think we're gonna postpone any further talk on exterior work until the historic preservation plan is updated. And actually, I guess from the city, Nathan and whoever else talks to the consultant, we talked about how it's the relationship between these two boards, what that would be like. And that would give us more cover on how to do that.
But one question that had to do with the interior, does that have to be an interior landmark?
So like
Does it need an interior landmark to be eligible for this fund?
yes, yep.
Right.
What is, you can explain what that means.
What is it?
Well, typically the landmarks are exterior, right? I mean, they're landmarking the facade and what have you. Yeah, there's a different process for an interior landmark and it's not used quite as often. I would have to check into which landmarks in Kingston are interior landmarks.
I
This
stand
could be one here.
I stand corrected. Okay, it can be just exterior only. I didn't realize that the interiors was.
Oh, that's a whole different can of worms, interior.
So for instance, this building is historic. I was not able to change the window look from the outside, so I had to do window inserts
Yeah,
from the outside. But inside here, we can
I'm not
do anything we want
100%
to.
I'm not sure about that.
This is like,
Based on this building itself or based on what the
Based
principles are?
upon this building.
Okay, but like, let's say
Based on the individual, there would not be a district of interior landmarks. It would pertain to, like, maybe the Senate House might be one. But that might be state jurisdiction. I mean, I have to go, I'll do this before we get to the next meeting.
So the map that we were looking at with all the points and the crisp are landmarks that are
For the
exterior.
most part, yeah, there may be a few interiors on the CRIS system, but again, we have to go property by property, dot by dot, and look to see. But we would know which ones would be high priority for that, like this building, the Senate House.
Posing, if it's a historic landmark, in theory,
Right.
that qualifies us to do interior repairs and restoration, renovation.
Under our authority,
Under our authority,
yeah, not HLPCs.
not an HLPC,
They don't have. that.
because we're supposed to dole out some money for historic preservation.
Right.
So, but as far as funding exterior work, we'll just postpone it. As far as the parcel prioritization, I just say disregard. Like every parcel that's historic, about a 4. It doesn't really, we're just really worried about whether either you're historic or you're
But that's historic or you're not based on,
the parcel preserve,
based on whether it's actually being designated.
whether it's actually being designated. That's more important than any score. But land conservation tax parcels for land conservation projects that 1 or higher still applies, because every feature, in that parcel prioritization is either a natural feature or relates to a natural feature, like trails, parks, whatnot. So
But for the historic preservation, it has to have at least one. It still has to have at least one.
no, not by law. I mean, it's, the plan says that you should fund things with 1 or higher, but that the prioritization may not perfectly fit our needs.
No, I understand that it only needs to have a 1 to be eligible, but we can't disregard the fact that it needs to have a 1, not a 0.
Well, it's gonna have a 4. It should have a 4. I think they were all given a 4.
Unless it's a non-designated parcel that someone thinks is historic, that's still got points.
So I think it's just, again, maybe it just doesn't matter. I'm just saying, just ignore the score. I mean, the important thing is that it's on a register somewhere. It's protected by municipal law. And that we're not really it's probably gonna have a 4 when I think about it. They all have a 4.
But we can't ignore the score as this board. It has to have a score of something in order for this board to ever be considering it.
But
Were there any that didn't have a score that you found? Or were they all 4?
I think they're all 4.
They all have a score.
But they all have a score, but I don't know. I didn't really. Let's see. The plan does say that the prioritization isn't perfect. And give us some wiggle room. I believe they all have a 4. We're not gonna get into, if it has a 4, but it has like a 6, because there's some natural feature, who cares? That's not the criteria we're worried about. So I guess I should have written it just disregard them. They at least need a 4, but this is just my opinion here. The prioritization for land conservation is very robust, and we need to keep to that. But it doesn't really work for historic preservation, for determining whether something should be receive historic preservation funding. That's it. So we can go on to the next topic. I'm curious, Ulster County CPF support and coordination, what that means.
I was, have talked now to several Ulster County staff. About inquiry from them on whether or not there will be value to the municipalities for having someone on the county level serve in an advisory or technical assistance role for the municipalities on community preservation fund use and community preservation plan. There have been very preliminary discussions. One of them was more of an economic spin, one of them was more of an environmental spin. And, basically, frankly, I think that there's value in having someone on the county level provide assistance to municipalities, for instance, for questions that we have that are legal. We happen to have corporation counsel on staff, but they're busy. Other municipalities probably don't have anyone legal on staff. And so if the county could serve that role, or like if the county would help to advocate for, housing fund, that could be coupled with this, or if the county would, work together with St. Hudson, different people work across municipalities to share information, or, whatever. I don't know what that would even look like. I don't run it, so it's not really up to me, but I'm just bringing it here because, as I mentioned, 2 different people from the county have come to me in the last month and said, what do you think? Do you think there could be a role for the county in supporting municipalities with CP or CPF? So I just wanted to bring it to this board to see if you think that there's a role for the county, if we want to advocate for it, if we don't think so. I mean, obviously we have a connection we happen to on our board have a representative from the county. And so I don't know if you want to weigh in on it or if other folks have opinions on it.
The environmental person talked about this with me. I don't know about economic development. Oh, no, someone from economic development did bring it up in passing. When it was brought up with me, it's like another meeting for all these, we would get together and talk about what we're doing. And I said, well, we're inviting people to our meeting already. And any one of us, I guess, be happy to go down to Rochester to one of their meetings and talk about what we need to do. But I said, we're at different stages. Like we're just kind of getting things together. And I think there'd be more value once we're all further along. And then we can talk and we have more issues fleshed out. I just don't know what would be productive. I think the way you framed it, if there's someone on the staff of the county that can answer particular questions and do research, that's what's needed now. As it is, we're meeting at 8:00 in the morning. I imagine others meet at 8:00 in the evening, 6:00 in the evening, that have another meeting during the day. It wouldn't be productive.
Yeah, I didn't interpret either of what folks were asking as a meeting of people. I interpret it as like, what technical assistance can we provide you?
It seems valuable. I mean, if everybody's working from the same lab in these different places, it seems valuable that someone at least is tracking. And that seems like that would be a good person at the county level, tracking like, what are people doing? What are the recurring questions that are coming up? So to have somebody that's sort of holding a little bit all the different kinds of work. I mean, that seems, I don't know what kind of resources they have to, but it seems like a good, because otherwise everyone's sort of working individually and we may know someone at this one, so we talk to them, but then this one's doing, so.
Yeah, I'm not by any means advocating that the county hire a person to be doing this. I'm saying if someone can figure it out in their existing job.
But when it was brought up to me, it was like more meetings.
Nobody wants more meetings.
And it wasn't brought up as technical assistance.
Well, I maybe there's just inquiry about whether, but what we would want. What were you going to say?
No, I think it's valuable to have technical assistance and somebody paying attention to all of the different ones that are in our county. And then, yes, our questions are going to be different because we are a city. But some of the concepts and questions might still transfer between everybody. And then, if the town of Rochester, who just passed theirs, has questions that, Impulse and Gardner have already figured out, for example, or even, that person can be the kind of collector of that information. And then, if they've got counsel,
I mean,
that can interpret the law, that could even help us, even though we've got counsel. Because if both councils agree that the interpretation is this, then that seems like Because interpretation is exactly that, it's interpretation, right? Things can sometimes be interpreted multiple ways, so.
I mean, it could scale up to like, again, we have a paid person, then once you all leave and you go do whatever you're doing, I'm continuing with, community preservation work. I would be the person working on the appraisals and the surveys and all that, but working with a small community, like whomever, Shongum doesn't have funding for a survey or an appraisal or whatever, or a person to be dedicated to that. Could there be funding or grants available from the county to help to do that? Could there be technical assistance staff that doing the appraisal work?
I don't know if the county has that expertise.
Oh, I don't have no idea if anyone in the county does have the expertise. I think this is just the beginning of the conversation of like,
Is it needed?
is it needed?
Yeah, I think the expertise rests on these boards. You.
If we don't have any expertise, we're literally learning this together.
No, but you.
Every single meeting. and
You,
each time was like,
you
whoa.
brought it to this point. You were
I
here
said, yeah.
before,
Yeah.
and I'd be happy to talk about what I've done so far
Yeah,
and where we're going.
yeah.
So I think, in my opinion, for the time being, I think as long as there's a line of communication between the different municipalities, you help with that, you brought people. And I actually had to CC Tara on a farm preservation project. If we know one another, we can help one another.
Yeah,
So I think that's. okay.
yeah, but the county could help facilitate that as well.
Shinko, at the rest of the workshop, did this come up at all? County collaboration?
I'm not sure, but like I was saying, because we're the only city, yes, a lot of places are already more,
Yeah, everyone.
yeah. So, us being the difference between city and county, they're already countywide.
All right, well, this was just the beginning of our conversation, so.
Right. So what is this, Rhonda uploads?
So, the Kingston Wilderness property, the 669 acres that was purchased, the city bonded for that amount of money, $440,000. And, the way that the bond works is that you pay off the bond. It's called debt service. And so several times a year, we gather all the bonds that we've bonded for this project, that project, this project, whatever, and we pay it off by some amount. I don't know what that amount is, but we pay into the bond debt service. And so it was certainly part of the administration's intent, and also the common council's wish, I believe, to use CPF funds to pay for the Kingston Wilderness property, pay the bond. It came up the other day because I was trying to understand what the timeline for that process is and how, when the debt service is due and what percentage do we pay or not. In other words, if the plan is to have the common council officially approved to pay with existing CPF for the bond debt service, that approval has to go through. So that process takes at least 2 months. So in that process of me asking corporation counsel and our comptroller's office, when is debt service due? What's my process for doing this? The question came up of whether this is permitted at all, whether it is permitted to use CPF to pay off the debt service. So I did a Google AI search and it said, can't pay the bond, but you can pay the debt service. And then the other day I was at the workshop with Shaniqua and these other communities, and Marbletown was like, oh yeah, this is how we've been paying. We did the exact same thing. They bought this big Osterhout property in Marbletown and they've been paying the debt service on the bond. So that's why I went to Corporation Council and I said, well, there's precedent. Well, that's not what a precedent is truly. So this is currently being interpreted on our end, but I just wanted to bring it up because we don't have $440,000 within the fund. And once I get the understanding of how this process would work, this board itself needs to decide whether it's making a recommendation to the common council to say, use the first $440,000 for the fund to pay back this debt service on the bond.
that was used to pay for the 70 acres of Kingston Wilderness.
This discussion is separating debt service from principal. The principal will be the full amount of the bonding that was done, and the debt service would be the interest payments that are made periodically.
Oh, so this, this question came up at the workshop and I didn't understand it. Can you please explain this to maybe at least, or everyone else, if they don't, maybe people already understand it?
Well, I'm not sure I have the answer. I'm not sure it's in the code either. I've wondered this, since Kingston Wilderness was purchased, but yeah, the principal, I think those of you that are involved in land trust would know this. Or if you have a mortgage on your house, the principal is the amount of the loan. And the debt service is the interest payments that are paid monthly, quarterly. I don't know how these bonds were. I think they paid quarterly or semi-annually, but I'm not sure. And can we use it to pay the principal?
The debt service
Here-
doesn't mean all of it, it means just the interest.
Yeah,
Can I just say that
right.
as I'm looking this up, I don't know, we're going, Google says debt service is the total amount of money required to pay the principal and interest on a debt over a specific period, such as a month.
Yeah, but typically with bonds, I don't know how this bond is structured specifically, but typically municipal bonds, the municipality only pays the debt service is the interest.
Okay.
And then there's a due date, a redemption date or a call date. And the city controller can call the bond and say, we're paying all the principal tomorrow. And that's it. And it has to be specified in the document that tomorrow is the date you can do it. And then they pay off the investors. That's it. Bond is done and it's finished. So I think that's what the Common Council wants us to do, is to pay it's $400,000, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, 440.
Right, they want the 440.
When did we close on that property?
My closing was in February.
This February.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it possible, does it have to, would we have to do the whole 440
I don't know.
all at once? I mean, could it be like, if they're paying in chunks?
These are all really good questions. Just what I'm trying to navigate, but I just wanted to bring it up at the meeting today because once I find out the answers to the questions, I mean, first step will be to go through this board, whether or not it's the recommendation that this funding be used for that. So I guess I need to understand how we do our debt service for our bonds and municipal bonds. Like what it means, right?
Probably looks at, not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a conversation that I'll have with
There's
our
a
comptroller.
thing you can find on the internet called EMMA, EMMA, that has all the municipal bonds everywhere, the whole country. And it will show Kingston's bonds. I don't know if it'll show which bond paid for this site. May not be that specific.
Well, it's like I have some investigating to do.
All right. Before we end, I spoke at a conference and you were at a conference, the same conference, City of Hudson.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
I just spoke on behalf of the city's CPP and, I actually only attended that one section, so I can't speak to the rest of it. Shaniqua, I don't know if you want to speak to anything else in the rest of the workshop.
Well, I mean, as I was saying, other places have other, different characteristics from our city. So they're concentrating on things that they prioritize to be, the most important for them. So some folks are looking at how they can use this to pay stewardship on farmland, how they can help acquire farmland, how farmland is important to their landscape, because it feeds all the people and it's economically, significant to their environment. So, I mean, that's just one example of something that we're not particularly looking at. But I'm listing all the questions that are coming up now, and I'm like, there are people I can reach out to get more information on our specific, questions and process for what we're doing.
For the Kingston Land Trust.
No, for city of Kingston.
For the city.
That's where having these
Oh,
questions
okay.
come up for us.
Right,
Okay, it was a good work.
nice. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I just want to make sure that we'll have, quorum at the December 17th meeting.
I'll be here.
Okay. And for next meeting, do we still want to have both prioritization, parcel prioritization? Yes, keep that.
Yeah,
And then.
yeah, if you're gonna give me more data, then I can look at the new data.
I'll send you the
Okay,
Okay,
most current.
and then the real estate analysis, that can be removed from the agenda?
Yeah.
And then the historic preservation, that's staying, or we?
Let's take a look into the interiors, possibility of doing interior.
and adding
Okay,
data
yep. Is she coming remotely or in person?
in person, I think.
Okay.
And Shanika, to address the comment you had made, when you were doing this definition plan, debt service can include serving as a principal, and typically does with a home mortgage, but maybe not so much with municipal bonds. We can just do principal, and that's my understanding is an endowment expenditure for a private foundation.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, you made, second. You made Kevin made the motion, Kara, made the second.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye, unanimous, no no's, no abstentions. Meeting concludes at 9:36.